go ahead with the interview.
All right. Well, what is professional experience? What would you say is your first job?
My first job. How far back do you go?
All the way. What is your where do you find you have a defined sense of wanting to get money more than a lot of people that I've seen. Where did that start?
My first job was delivering the Richmond Times-Dispatch. I was a delivery boy. I took the papers into people's homes, threw them on the porch. From that point on, it was all delivery in the morning, which means my father had to help me take them around in the morning because it'd be raining or snowing or icing. Then I got a job with the Progress Index for evening mail. So I had about 250 customers, and I delivered those to a certain area on my bicycle. And on Saturday, I'd collect, every Saturday I'd collect from the customers, take the money down to Petersburg to the office and give them the money. And I made $17 a week, which was a lot of money for me then, because I was in junior high school, middle school. So during that time, I bought my own clothes. I had my own accounts at several stores in Petersburg, and I bought my own clothes and paid them weekly, like your payments like you would make on a car or a house, okay? So that was a lot of money for me, okay? Then after that, I got a job with Sunshine Cleaners, helping deliver cleaning. Back then, people didn't have washers or dryers, so they sent the clothes out, and Sunshine Cleaners would clean them, and I rode on a delivery truck delivering the clothes. They packaged them, packaged them up and then I lost that job because we didn't have enough business. But before all of that, I used to cut grass with a push lawnmower for $1, $1.50, $1.25.
This is before like gasoline mowers, right? This is just like turn mowers.
No, they had them.
Oh, they did?
But I didn't have one of those.
Oh, okay.
So I eventually saved enough money to buy me a gas lawnmower. And at BF Goodrich, on account, I had to pay them weekly till I finished paying for it. And I used it so much that I run the wheels off of it. It got old, and then I can't remember what I did after that. After that, in summertime, I went to work for Noldy's Bread as a helper. And I don't remember what they paid me, but I was on the assembly line catching the boxes of bread and rolls and making up a box and catching them off the conveyor belt, stacking them in the box, pulling a lift to move them, make another box, and catching them until the conveyor belt was so fast that was running around my ankles and my legs. I couldn't catch them fast enough because they were coming off so fast. I had to move them, make a new box, catch them, move that box, get a new box. I worked there during the summer. Okay.
Wait, so how old are you for that?
I was probably like 15.
Oh wow. Okay.
15, okay. So I went from that, then I went to work for Blue Ridge Manufacturing. I think I can't remember, I think I was out of school then. They made jeans. That was in Petersburg. They made jeans and women's pedal pushers, all different kinds of clothes.
What's a pedal pusher?
That's the slacks women wear with a little cut off the right here,
Okay.
called pedal pushers. I had to push a cart around with a piece of paper, fill the order. Then I'd take that and the people would pack them up, ship them out, and give me another sheet of paper. And I had a push cart where you go off the shelf and pick the ones that they wanted the numbers, by lot numbers. Okay, I worked there. Then from there, I got a job at Standard Drugstore in Petersburg, making 95 cents an hour. Okay, I worked in the basement. Standard Drugstore was a drugstore. They sold cigarettes, canned food, canned goods, and from there, they asked me would I take the job as being a manager of the basement. They would give me $1.10 an hour, from 95 cents to $1.10 an hour. So I was a manager of the basement, struggling very hard because I had gotten married, okay, and I had to rent an apartment with my wife, and I applied at Brownlee Williamson, which was a cigarette factory in Petersburg, and I didn't get the job. But my aunt worked there. She knew the guy that did the hiring because she was kin to him, and I was kin to her. So they called me in. I got that job. It's called miscellaneous, which means I was a helper. I pushed a cart around and picked up all the cellophane and all the papers and all the boxes, and relieved some of the helpers. Called a relief guy. Okay. I worked there for a year and 9 months, and I got a job at Allied Chemical. But at Brownlee Williamson, I made $1.64.5 an hour. Okay, Monday through Friday. But we closed on Saturdays and Sundays, and I worked 4 to 12. Okay, so I applied at Honeywell. Honeywell was expanding and adding a lot of equipment, and they were hiring a big time. So I got a job there as an operator, making $2 an hour. So I went from $1.64.5 to $2 an hour, plus all the overtime I wanted. So I said if I could only make $100 a week, I'd have it made. I'd have it made, because I normally was making $60-some an hour. So I worked 2 or 3 days over, working shift work. And when you work shift work, if they need you, they can draft you, okay, to work another 8 hours. But you could only do that twice a week. You could only do twice a week because they felt that, that was too much for you.
Yeah.
But if you volunteered, you could do it every night.
Okay.
I always volunteered.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've never been drafted. Never. Always accepted overtime. So I was making good money, and I worked there for 41 years. I retired at 62 and took a buyout. But before that apprenticeship came open, I applied for it, and they went by seniority. Plus, you had to have a high school education. Okay. I did not get it because I didn't have enough seniority. I applied for it to be a heating and air conditioning man. So, about 30 years later, it came open again. They got the union negotiated apprenticeship, and they says, you better hope to take it because we're not going to be able to negotiate another one. So I accepted. I put in for electrician. No, I put in for heating and air conditioning, but they didn't want heating and air conditioning people. They wanted instrument, electricians, welders, and mechanics. So I put in for electrical. Well, before all of that, I always wanted to be going business for myself. This is before the apprenticeship came open for me. And so I went to school for 4 years, heating and air conditioning at John Tyler and another schooling. I went to two schools, okay? And so I started doing that on the side, heating and cooling and installing and repair work while I was working shift work. Okay. So when the apprenticeship came open, I didn't get the electrical job. I got an instrumentation job, which I did not want. But I was willing to take anything to get out of production.
Yeah.
Okay. So I trained for instrumentation, and two of the girls got electrical ahead of me. Two women did. One of them quit before she finished being trained, schooling. The other one got kicked out because they caught her cheating. So when her job came open, they switched me into electrical, which I wanted. Okay, so I got what I wanted, but they also had cross crafting. They said if you go to a second craft, which means we'll give you $2 more an hour. So everybody in there decided to cross craft. So I cross craft in mechanical. Okay. So after about 6 weeks, the girl, they realized that that's not what I asked for. I asked for mechanical. So they so now I am an electrician and a mechanical person, which I work on motors, rolls, all kinds of stuff. So I had two crafts, being electrical and mechanical. Okay. I worked there for 41 years. They offered to have a buyout because by that time I was 60-some years old. So the union says, you better take it, Jerry, because we had to negotiate this buyout. We probably won't have another one. So what they were trying to do is all the guys who had a lot of seniority and been there a long time, they're offering that buyout so the young people could come in and have jobs. Okay. So when I suggested that I would take it, I took it. So I worked there 41 years.
What's the money look like when you take it? You said it's a buyout, right? So you get...
So they said, we will give you 1 week's pay for every year you've been here. And I had been there 41 years. So I signed the papers. And after I signed the papers, they realized they couldn't give me a week for every year I've been there because I've been there 41 years. They said the maximum is 28 weeks. So I got a week's pay for 28 weeks, which I thought was wrong because they told me before I signed it, I would get a week's pay for every year I've been there. So I got like 26, I got like $28,000,
Mm.
and after taxes, I only received 15,000.
Oh my God.
The taxes was like 45%.
Woo.
Okay. I asked him, could you give me a check every month? He says, no, we need to clear the books so you get a lump sum. Okay.
Mm.
So I took the money and start doing my heating and air conditioning full time. Okay. Well, I really looked for another electrical job after I retired, but I applied to 2 or 3 companies and they only wanted to pay me $15 an hour.
Oh wow.
Well, I was used to making $26 an hour. So I went to work. I kept doing my own business, heating and cooling. And my wife says, aren't you tired of people knocking on your door, calling you and running you ragged? I said, yeah. She says, why don't you go to work for someone else? So I applied at a couple of companies for heating and air conditioning. And Stoneman Heating and Cooling said, how long have you been doing heating and cooling? I said, 25 years. They said, well, come on down, we'll interview. They interviewed me, gave me the job right off the bat. So I was a heating and cooling technician because I had already been to school and got my card, CFC card, and I was qualified, and I've been doing it for 25 years. So they gave me a van to drive, and I was on call. Every 3rd week I was on call.
Yeah.
Okay, which meant I got time and a half. Okay, so it got to be where I had only one other technician who had been there, and he'd been doing it all by himself. So it was just him and I. Okay, he was really good, and I was pretty good. Then he left and went to California to do that work. So I'm there by myself as a technician. Okay. Well, we had a lot of business. Okay. So I asked them to hire somebody else to give me a hand. So they hired another guy, and he came in, and he wasn't very good because he went with me sometime, and I was trying to help train him. Then later on, I says, we got too much business. We got so much business. I know a guy that's really good. I called him up and asked him if he wanted to go to work for us. He said, sure. So he came in, and he and I and the third guy were running calls.
Okay.
But the worst thing about it was I got most of the calls because everybody says jury only. Jury only. Jury only, because I was good.
Cost of good work.
And they liked me. I talked to them. I explained things to them. I showed how things work. I didn't just fix something and leave. So I got to being too much work for me. And sometimes on call, Saturdays and Sundays, I'd have 15 or 20 calls. And I mean, I'd be all over Henrico, Chesterfield County, Richmond. I was going everywhere. So one day I went in the office and they had a young boy in there named Jeff Smith, who knew nothing about air conditioners. So they hired him and put him with me. So he wrote with me for a couple of years, and I trained him. And he became a good technician. He went to school at night with his own money. The company offered to pay him to go to schooling. He said, no, I'll pay for my own. His name was Jeff Smith. So when I left there, after 9 years, he was a lead technician. He had become really good. But when he went on his weekend calls, I went with him. The company did not know that. I didn't get paid for it because I liked him and I helped him. Because I was familiar with all the old stuff, he was nothing but new stuff. So I would go with him for about 2 years. Every 3rd week, I'd be on one, and then he'd be on one, then the next guy would be on one for the weekend. So he became a good technician. I trained him real well, and I told my boss, I said, I want to retire. I've been here 9 years. I want to go fishing. He says, Jerry, you'll never go fishing. Okay? I said, yes, I will. So I retired, and Jeff took over as a lead technician, and I never went fishing. So I got bored. I went back to work for myself, doing heating and cooling. So all the people who I did work for on my own, when I worked for Stoneman Heating and Cooling, I gave them my customers. Okay. So after I left and retired from him, first of all, he says, stick with me for 6 more months because these guys don't know the old equipment. So I worked 6 more months. I said, all right, Charles, I'm leaving.
So how old are you at that point?
I don't remember. I was in the 60s, okay? He says, stick with me 1 more year. So I stayed with him
That's
another
after
year.
the 6 months?
I stayed with him another year. And I said, Charles, I am quitting. I'm retiring completely. He said, okay. By that time, Jeff and another guy had been hired, covered my job. He had somebody to cover it. So I come home. I didn't get an electrical job because nobody wanted to pay anything, so I went back to work for myself. Okay. So I got all my old customers back, come back to me, okay, because they liked me, okay. So I've been doing heating and cooling and electrical work till I was 82, okay.
Man.
And I retired in December, okay. And I made a lot of money, had a lot of customers. Now that I'm retired, people are still calling me because they trust me and they know that I'm honest and I do good work. And they know that I treat them fairly, and I am a Christian, and they know that, okay? Being a Christian, people trust you and people believe in you. And so now I am retired.
Did you get a lot of business from church business?
I don't remember. But I'm still selling equipment. Matter of fact, this day that I'm talking to you right now, I just sold one yesterday. 2 weeks ago, I sold one. Helped put it in. 4 weeks ago, I sold one. So I'm still doing SAD work right now, okay? But I also have an installer that installs these units for me, and I introduce him to the customers, and I help him out, and he gives me a little money for selling equipment. So I'm not totally retired, but I am retired, okay? I love to work. I just can't get it out of my system. So I do electrical now, and I do heating and cooling, but I don't do the complete job now. I have an installer that does most of the work, and I give him my customers. The end.
Let me
I've
ask
been
you.
working since I was 5 years old. I pulled a wagon around in the neighborhood, collecting old newspapers, taking them down to Gresham and Ware for a penny a pound. From that point on, I started cutting grass with a push mower, making $1 for a yard, $1.50 for a yard. From there, I went on to being on a newspaper boy, Richmond Times-Dispatch, then the Progress Index, then Sunshine Cleaners, then Blue Ridge Manufacturing. From there, I went to Standard Drugstore. From Standard Drugstore, I went to Brandon Williamson. From Brandon Williamson, I went to Allied Chemical, and that's where I retired from. Okay. So when I went to work for Allied Chemical for $2 an hour, working in production, I was bringing home, before overtime, I was bringing home $100 a week, and I was living in high hog. I said, if I could only make $100 a week, I'd really have it made, and I did. But then I started working overtime and bringing home $200, $300 a week. Okay? But I really, when I went into the apprenticeship program, which I've always wanted to be, work for myself, and went to school while I was working, before the apprenticeship program, I went to school while I was working in production for heating and cooling. So I was 4 years there. In the electrical apprenticeship program, I was for 4 more years. So I went for 8 years, 4 for each craft, okay? Mm. And the apprenticeship program for electrical, went to John Tyler for 4 years. And my last 18 years, I was an electrician for Honeywell working shift work. Then I went on to day work. Okay, I worked shift work mostly because I had a heating and cooling business on the side.
Mm.
Okay.
How did that help?
Huh?
How did shift work help with that versus like just
because
doing day work?
I could go to work on 4 to 12.
Mm.
Okay. I could work 8 to 4, day work and do my job, and go in there and work 4 to 12 at work at the plant. Mm. And I had it made. I was on call. So I get a good night's sleep, plus I can get 8 hours on the daylight. But when I worked graveyard shift, which was 12 to 8, I might do one job in the morning, then come home and go to bed. But working shift work, I could work 8 hours daylight, 4 hours, 4 to 12 at work. So eventually I went on day work because I was tired of working graveyard. I hated graveyard shift. You know, you come home, go to sleep, get up, go back to work, you know. But most of the time I'd work 4 or 5 hours during the daytime, then go in on 4 to 12, and I had it made. I was by myself. I was on a call. Sometimes I wouldn't get any calls. Sometimes I get 4 or 5 calls. Okay?
And that's all for maintenance work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was very well liked by all the engineers, mainly because when I was on call, I went in, they didn't have to wait for me. I kept my clothes on, haul buggy right on over there and fix the equipment, stay there till in the morning shift, and stay all day on daylight because I was working daylight. A lot of the other guys they call would be 4 or 5 hours before they come in.
Mm.
So they liked me. But they had to go by overtime hours. If I was low on overtime, they'd call me. If I was second or third, they'd call the first guy second line. And most of the time they wouldn't come in. So I would still get to come in. Okay? I would take it. A lot of them didn't want to work overtime. When you're making pretty good money, some of them don't care about working 16 hours. You know.
It's easy to not take it. Yeah, for sure.
So you like the money, I like the money. Okay? So you work overtime, I work overtime. Very seldom I turn it down. I don't think I ever turn it down. I had worked 16 hours 7 days a week. Oh my God. When they have a shutdown.
Man, oh my God.
And every 4 years we have negotiate our contract. So twice while I was there as electrical, we had strike. Okay. So during the strike, I got a call from somebody working. They needed an electrician while they're on strike to string lights and hook up all the 6-pack welding machines, running the wire.
Okay.
So I went to work over at Continental Can for 3 weeks, working 6 in the evening to 6 in the morning.
Whoa.
During the shutdown. And it was dirty and nasty in there, cold.
Where is that at? Is that around here?
On in Hopewell.
Oh, okay.
They got 2 different names for it now. And ever since, so I worked there for about 6 weeks, and then the strike ended, and I went back to work at Honeywell. See, most people walk the picket line. I walked the picket line for a couple of weeks before I got a call to go. So I forget the name of the company, but they were out of state. They always worked on shutdowns, different states. So after that, every year they called me and wanted me to come to work for them. The company as an electrician. They only carry 1 electrician when they go, but they needed 2. So I went to work for them, and most of the time I didn't even get a call because, unless something happened. And I was so when we went back to work, I was so happy to get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Was Honeywell just a better environment?
Sure.
Yeah.
I had my own room, my own radio, my popcorn machine, my TV. I had to hide them though, okay? Yeah. I had a cabinet where I kept them in there. When I come in on 412, I go home and I take my stuff out and sit back in my chair and wait for a call, okay? And on graveyard, sometimes they call me 4 or 5 times, and I went into a room and locked the door. So sometimes on graveyard, I sleep all night in the chair.
No calls?
Sometimes I would, and sometimes I didn't, But that's it. It used to be 2 of us per shift. It was me, electrician, and instrument man. Electrician and instrument man. Mechanic and an electrician. Curtis was on my shift. Me and Curtis was a mechanic, and I was an electrician. Okay. I didn't care much for instrumentation because I didn't like it. It's small stuff. It's transistors, resistors, and air pressures and all that stuff, small stuff,
Gauges and stuff.
Right. But I wanted to be an electrician because that was my weakness when I was heating and cooling, to know how to wire them up, hook them up.
So it'd give you an edge there.
So that was my weakness before I became an electrician, okay? I also went to electrical school at, what's the school up in Chester? High school. Not Thomas Dale, but the other one, Byrd.
Oh, okay.
Byrd High School had a apprenticeship program I went to, and I went to it, and they had trainers for heating and cooling, a little thing you put on your desk, and he could plug programs in it, faults in it, with lights on it, little lights and all, and indicating motors and stuff like that. And he'd plug a problem in it, and I had to test it and find out what the problem was.
Oh, okay.
So it's called troubleshooting. So I got to be a really good troubleshooter, okay? So a lot of times when people call me now on the phone, I said, what's wrong? They tell me. I said, what kind of unit is it? They tell me. Most of them don't even know what kind of unit they got. Well, let me wait aside and see what the name is. I said, call me back. Call me back. What's it doing? They tell me. I said, you got a bad capacitor. You got a bad fan motor. You're low on Freon. I can tell on the phone if somebody knows what they're talking about when they call me. Okay? So that helps a lot. I try to help them fix it themselves. Most of them said, no, I want you to come on out and check it for me. A lot of people don't want to do it. I don't think they have enough knowledge to do it. But I have fixed gas furnaces and heat pumps on the telephone and never charge anybody. And just I said, if I can show you how to do it, there won't be any charge. Call me back if you do. And most time they said, that's exactly what you told me. So I'm proud of that. Okay. But in your job, people don't have welding machine. Okay.
Yeah.
So they, like I said, I need you to solder something. I need you to. But electrical, when the lights are blinking or something's burned out, I said, well, are they LED lights? She said, yeah. I said, well, that's a bad light. LEDs now, everything's LEDs. Light indicating diodes. Diodes are little teeny things, transistors. When the light comes on, all the little diodes light up. Well, on your normal thing, just one light. So LEDs are real tiny little, I want to say transistors. So a LED light may have 15 or 20 of these little things.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Is that inside the bulb or on the sides? Inside? Okay.
Yeah, that's why all these bright lights now in these cars are LEDs.
Oh,
You know how you can't hardly see when you see them coming? They're so bright.
Yeah.
They're all LEDs. They last longer. Now, see, LEDs don't put out heat. So you reach up and touch that bulb, it'll burn the shit out of you. You touch a LED,
Nothing?
there's no heat.
Huh, I didn't know
That's
that.
why it saves you money.
Oh, okay.
Light indicating diodes, okay?
I didn't know LEDs
If you
would
see
save
some of the
money.
new cars on the back stoplights and all, you see a lot of little lights.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
all LEDs, okay?
Okay. Let me ask you a question, Papa. So, there's not many people that work 16 hours. You think it's kids, having a lot of kids that gave you a drive to do that? Or did you always just have a drive to work
I've
long?
always had a drive to work. I've always wanted money.
Mm.
I always wanted to have my own money.
Mm.
My daddy never gave me an allowance. My daddy never treated me like I treat my grandson. Okay? So that's why I want you to learn all you can learn. And if you get laid off doing a welder, you should have another craft which you can do. See, the reason I went into air conditioning and heating and electrical, because everybody has to have electricity, everybody has to have heat and cooling. Everybody didn't have to have instrumentation. So that means if you a welder and an electrician, or you're a welder and an air conditioning guy, you'll always have work somewhere, side work, all you want,
Right.
if you're good enough, okay? When you treat people fair, they'll recommend you. If I do something today for a person, that person will recommend me to one or two or three more people, okay? So if you do a good job welding, that some of them are happy with you. They'll recommend you for a job to somebody else. They said, you know somebody can do some welding? They'll say, yeah, I know you.
Would when you first started, because you said you did air condition first, right?
Yeah.
So when you first start getting jobs, where do you start getting jobs from? Is it people that you already know? Are you bumping into people?
Well, when I was in production, I was doing heating and cooling. I also put Freon in cars, okay? Refrigerant, call it refrigerant.
Yeah.
And I had some engineers who come to my house that I work with and says, well, can you put Freon in my car? I said, sure, come on over and do it. First of all, I started working on window units. And Mr. Harvey, my neighbor, and his brother-in-law lived on the street. Mr. Harvey worked for me for like 3 years before he died. I give him $10 an hour cash, okay? I got more training from him, more knowledge from him than I did in any school. Because he could work on any, he could fix ice makers, wash machines, refrigerators, dryers, heat pumps, air conditioning, oil furnaces. He could do all that. So he worked for me, okay? So I got more from him than I did any schooling out there.
So how old are you when you meet him?
But when I bought this house,
Oh, okay.
he lived over there, and that's what he did.
See.
He worked for Bowman, doing that stuff, Bowman Electrical, when he was doing all that. Then he went to work for another company. He could work on all this old equipment, like old-timey gas furnaces and gas stoves and stuff like that. But some things that I didn't want to work on. I didn't want to work on wash machines. They're not worth working on. You buy, for repair a wash machine, you might as well just buy another one, because it's going to cost you almost half the money, almost as what a new one would cost you.
Okay.
But I learned how to work on dryers, refrigerators. I put compressors in refrigerators. I put compressors in window units. I sorted leaks in window units. I changed a lot of motors in them. But he taught me how to do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, if you have a window unit, and you have a compressor, and you have a fan, you have you have a fan, one that sucks the air in and one blows the air out, just like a heat pump, okay? That motor has two shafts on it. There's your motor with the shaft going that way and a motor with the shaft going this way. Okay, if you look at the window units, the units out there, you only got one fan that takes the heat off the outdoor unit.
Right.
So a window unit has a condenser coil and a cooling coil and a fan in the middle. Okay?
Okay.
Now to change that motor, you've got a cooling coil here and a heating coil here, and that motor's in the middle. How do you go by changing that motor? You got the blade on each side. You got a squirrel cage on this side and a blade fan on this side.
What do you have to go from above it?
You loosen up the back coil. It's got the brackets that hold it like this. Take that coil, swing it around without breaking the refrigerant lines. Swing it around like that. Get the blade off, take the motor off, put it back on, then swing that coil back around. Out the back coil, the heat coil.
Okay.
But see, out here, you just take the coil, take it off.
Huh, okay.
See? Yeah. So on a window, and I went down when I had an account with Booth Refrigeration Supply, which was on Broad Street. I had an account with them, and R.E. Michaels, I got an account with them, and I got an account with several of them. I went down there one day, and one of the guys working behind the counter had a window unit in the back room. He couldn't figure out how to take the motor off, and none of them down there did. This is the salespeople. I said, "What are you trying to do?"
That's funny. That's the salespeople at the refrigerator company.
Well, they know the parts. They know
Yeah,
the parts. You know?
yeah.
He said, "I can't get the damn motor off. I don't know how to get the motor off." I said, "All you got to do is take the loosen up the two sides that are holding the back coil in. Back coil like this, with a bracket holding it in. Take the screws off of this one, screws off this one. Take a coil, move it like that, without breaking the refrigerant lines on the end of it.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you break them, then all the freon comes out.
Yeah.
You gives you enough coil to swing it out of the way. Take the fan blade off, put the new motor on, put the squirrel cage back on it, put the blade back on it, take this thing, put it back around, put your screws back in.
So
Now on the refrigerator, you have a heater. You wouldn't think you'd have a heater in the refrigerator, would you?
no, I wouldn't.
All right. You got a fan motor in your freezer that blows the cold air across the cold coil, okay? You have a motor under the bottom that sucks air in and cools the compressor.
Okay.
Just like you have a compressor out there with a big fan, okay? Let me show you something. Come here a minute. Under the bottom of this thing here, on the back wall, you take the cover off the bottom back there, you'll see a fan under there, right that big. You can actually stop it with your finger. It doesn't have any torque. If a piece of paper gets hung in the fan, it won't turn, so the compressor will overheat. I've seen little cars fall off and get in there. I've seen mice in between the blades.
So this is like under the fridge or something, right?
It's in the back, right
Oh,
on
in
the
the
back
back,
wall
okay.
back there. It pulls air from through here across the compressor and blows the heat off back in the back. Okay, that cools the compressor. So a dirty coil under there, it doesn't have a filter. So about every 6 months, you need to take a vacuum cleaner and suck the dirt off of that. You pull this thing off right here. Take a vacuum and suck all the dust off that coil. That coil gets stopped up the same as the one in the hall where you're at home.
Oh, okay.
You follow me?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
gets
yeah,
stopped
like
up,
that.
it's going to overheat. It's going to make the coil get too cold. And anyway, and in here, you have a fan back here. Feel it come out. Feel it?
Yeah, it's blowing.
Right behind there is the fan.
Okay.
Only about that big.
Okay.
Cold air falls. So right here, it's blowing cold air in here. It's blowing cold air right there. Okay?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right.
I don't think it was this.
All right, see that's the drain pan right there. I mean, that's the drain right there. In here, every 8 or 12 hours, this thing goes into defrost. If not, the coil's going to get frozen.
Okay.
Behind that, under that coil in there, it's a coil in there, is a heater. So when it goes into defrost, the heater comes on and melts all the ice off the coil.
Huh. Okay, that is something I never thought of. That's
I know, okay. So that's the drain cup for it right there. That little cup is for it, all the water go down, it goes down and goes into under here to a drain pan. And the drain pan evaporates from the heat. You don't have any way of, like you do on your one-day unit or your outdoor unit. Okay? So you got a fan motor there, you got a fan motor here, you got a heater under that coil. That coil is like this. Under that coil you got a little drain pan with a little tube on it. When it goes in defrost, it melts and goes into that little cup, and that little cup goes down behind there into a drain pan under here. Okay?
Okay. That's
All right.
that is wild. Well,
Yeah.
I'll
I don't know what else to tell you, but
I'll
I tried to show you something when you were helping me once before, remember?
absolutely no. That is a great explanation for it. Let me I'll hit you with a couple more questions and then I'll let you go, Papa.
All right. Yeah, one of the questions you had on that sheet was, did I like my job? Did I hate going to work? Yes. I hated production, but I made a good living, so I had to tolerate it. You may not like what you're doing, but if it makes you money, you can live okay. You tolerate it.
Absolutely.
So my happiest days is when I became an electrician. Up to that job in production, I despised it. But I made a good money because I worked overtime and I paid my bills. I've always wanted to be in business for myself. Okay? So doing heating and cooling, I was very happy. When I became an electrician, I was even happier. And so, all right, go ahead and ask me some more questions.
Was there any? So you bring up Mr. Harvey. Is there anybody that, I mean, it could be him, but is there anybody that was a big influence on your work, like that evolved? You felt like took you from one level of working to another.
James Harvey. James Harvey. His knowledge was better than any schooling you can go to. Okay, just like what I'm telling you is better than any schooling you can go to for what I'm telling you about.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay? To work with somebody that likes you, get along with, That's why so many people end up going in business for themselves. See, the
Fair
thing of it
enough.
is, I had a guy that I took time with. He was kin to me. His name was Jeff Smith. But he was a druggie. And I took him under my wing. I got him a job with with Stoneman. He got fired from Sears. He was appliance man for Sears for 18 years, he told me. I said, you work on heating and cooling? He said, yeah, I know all about it. So I got him a job with Charles. So he rode with me for a while. I loved him just like I loved you. But he kept getting in drugs.
Mm.
Okay. He'd borrow money from me. I'd buy him cigarettes. Stop and give me a drink. I'd give him $5. He'd come back out and I'd get no fucking change back. He'd buy a damn cupcake and a pack of cigarettes and a drink and all that. Take him side jobs. He'd do a side job with me. And then he'd start telling my customers, you don't need him. Call me. I can do that.
Oh, trying to undercut. Oh, man.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the trouble. When you train people, you train them good. Next thing you know, they go and work for themselves. So he started doing it himself. But he charged people a lot of money. And he'd be in jail, didn't pay child support. When he worked for Sears, he was driving a van and wrecked a van twice, driving around and going to parties with Sears truck.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. One time a tree fell on his van, and so I got him a job with Charles. Well, I went on vacation. He was supposed to cover for me for that week. He covered for me. He went on a job. Had a bad transformer on the indoor unit, which is low voltage for the thermostat. He calls my boss and says, how do you change that? What? Do what? He said, how do you change that transformer? So Charles gave me a hand. He said, I thought you said he knew all that stuff. I said, well, he told me he'd been doing it for 18 years. So Charles cut him, put him in the shop, cut his pay.
Yeah.
He didn't know all this stuff he told me he knew. So how in the hell he did for Sears, I don't remember. No. I just listened to him. I believed him, okay? So after that, he cut him again, just cleaning the shop up, so he left. Next thing I know, he's doing this stuff on the side, heating and cooling on the side.
Oh, wow.
He did pretty good, but he called me every time he get in a problem. He'd call me on the phone. What color wires is this? What color wires did I do with this one? What did I do with that one? I said, Jeff, what the hell are you doing now? And he would charge people outrageous.
Really?
They never called him back after a job, you know.
Yeah, that's...
So I would say, I told you before, this was the brown wires common on Ream and Rude, the blue wires common on Train and all the rest of them. What did I do with the purple wire? I said the purple wire hooks up for the defrost cycle. And I had told him that several times, but his brain was gone. Smoking marijuana, okay? But doing drugs. So I don't know where he's at now, okay? But anyway, his daddy died. But he did do some heating and cooling. I don't know how he was buying equipment, because he was buying the equipment from the same guy that was supplying me with it. And I told him, I said, you know, evidently his daddy is paying for the equipment. You know. So his mama said something about, his mama's dead now too. Told him, she said, well, Jeff, can you come on and put some Freon in my unit? He said, well, I don't have any. Can you buy a jug for me? So she bought a jug of refrigerant. He put some refrigerant in hers and kept the jug of Freon and charged her on top of that, his own mama.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he'd do stuff like that because he needed money for drugs.
Right. Oh my God. That's
What's
crazy.
the next question?
Yeah, this, whew, well, that's, looking back, was there something that a moment in your life that you felt like you made it? Like, was there that you felt like you reached a goal, whether monetarily or was it just, whether it was just like reaching something in life? Was there a moment that it felt like it really came around for you.
When I got awarded a job in an apprenticeship for electrical, that solved most of my problems. Okay, so I knew that I had a good income coming then.
Right.
So that was the biggest reward I've ever had. Finally getting what I wanted, not what I just had to take.
Right.
Okay. So I think what you should be rewarded is you wanted to be a welder, you've become a welder, and you've advanced. Okay. But that's why I tell you it wouldn't hurt to get a second craft. But you may be not able to do that because the situation you're in now with a child, wanting a home. But I'm so proud of you now. Okay, because you made a big turnaround. Okay.
I appreciate that.
Right. And that's why I consider you my son now.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you're kind of weak on the gardening problem.
Yeah.
Okay. I went there a while ago and everything's popped up.
Everything's coming.
Yeah, I planted another half a row of beans.
Okay.
I planted 38 okra, but I got a little short row here and a little short row here instead of one long row.
Okay.
Now we got to do the cucumbers. After we do those, we'll be finished. Okay?
When you want to plant them?
You working tomorrow?
No, but I gotta go to a thing for Haley. But I'll be done by like 11. If not,
The only thing I'm concerned about is we don't have to do it tomorrow. The only thing I'm concerned about is the heat. Today it was horrible.
yeah, it was hot.
And I couldn't take that heat today.
Can we do it Sunday evening?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay.
Shouldn't take us long. I got the plants about that tall now. Okay.
Well, I'm excited for the
I know it's going to be too many of them but I got 2 spaces.
Better than too many than not enough.
Yeah. But I don't want to push you, okay? Like I said, I want you to make the money first, okay?
Will do.
But I've got everything planted, okay?
Well,
I paid for everything, okay?
Yeah. You've been paying for
You're talking
everything.
about $300 worth of equipment, worth of stuff right there.
Woo!
That stuff is not cheap. Each one of them plants was like $4 a piece.
Man, yeah, that's
I didn't pay all that for them, but
yeah.
okay.
Well, I appreciate this, Papa.
Yeah.
It really,
So, but the only thing I'm concerned about is now when it comes in, you need to pick it. Because a lot of times I don't have the money. I mean, I don't have a place to put it. You know, I mean, I can't eat it that fast.
I will definitely take some. In this.
So, what was another question? Yeah, I felt like when I became an electrician.
Oh, if you're gonna keep talking, put it back on.
Huh?
You're gonna keep talking, put it back on.
When I became an electrician, I felt like even though I'm an old man, I finally got what I wanted. I finally achieved my goal. Okay? So, I've got people out there still depend on me, still call me, still trust me. And they get, I've been saving people anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a job, and I'm still making good money. Okay? I started off making $1,000 a job. Then I went to $1,200 a job. Then as things got better, more jobs, I started making $1,600 a job. And I may work 4 hours and make $1,600. You follow me? I may work 4 hours and make $1,200. But as things increased in price, I still charge $65 for a service call. Everybody else charges $120, $130 a service call. These are my customers that I've been with a long time. Matter of fact, I did a job yesterday for $65. She gave me $75. I have had people give me $100 tip. I've had people don't give me a tip, which I don't expect a tip. I offer it back to them. They says, no, I believe in you, take it. So if you treat them right, they'll give you a tip. But the hardest thing for me to do was to figure out how to charge people. Because you don't want to.
You don't want to overcharge, right? Exactly.
Right. So I would do I did $55 for a long time, then I went to $65. Now I $75 a service call.
Won't even get off.
But a plumber charges $110 just to come to the house.
Wow.
Plumbers make money. They make big money. They make more than a heating and air conditioning guy.
Got to deal with the toilet though, man.
Well, I know that, but the thing of it is, a plumber has all kinds of water problems, toilet problems, sewer problems, But heating and air conditioning was a lot of equipment. Cost me a lot of money for equipment, a whole lot. You have to have a vacuum pump. You have to have gauges. You have to have recovery units. You have to have a vehicle. You have to have a bad refrigerant. You know how to charge. You have to learn how to charge for all that. You have to buy silver solder. You have to buy a torch. You have to have oxygen and nitrogen. Nitrogen to flush the lines out. You have to have filter dryers to put in case you have any moisture. So it's a lot of cost, okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
So when you do a job, you really have to add that and that and this and that to it. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. 6 kids. I don't understand. I got one child, and it seems like a lot of stress. It seems like a lot of, just thinking about what I want for his future. But I think, here's the thing, when I think about his future, I think about, that's why I work hard. And I hope that I can give him a college and that he doesn't have to worry about that. And then, you know what I mean? I'll take care of the monetary stuff. Did you feel the weight of that? Of like you wanted all of them?
I had 3 of them at one time going to school.
Right.
Justin went to Fork Union. That was expensive. Aaron went to John Tyler. Jeffrey went to Richard Bland, and Justin went to Virginia Tech. Lori and Dana went to William and Mary, and whatever she did get a scholarship. But Lori and Wayne went to electrical apprenticeship, but he got paid while he was doing that. Okay. So Wayne didn't really cost me anything other than all of them cost me a car. Okay.
Wait,
all of them
what?
cost me a car. But all of them went to college except 2. Okay. I had 3 going at one time. But see, I was working a lot of overtime. I was making money. So, but overtime is not always there, so you can't depend on it.
Take it while you can get it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you're living if you think you're gonna make it off of overtime, and all of a sudden it's cut out, it's like, what am I gonna do now?
Right. Right. You gotta.
So don't depend. You only depend on your salary.
Right. Exactly. Look at it just like it's 40 hours.
The overtime is extra.
Right.
Okay. The worst thing you can have is a damn credit card and keep using it.
Right.
You tell me interest pays 18% interest, 20% interest.
Wow.
Okay. It's fine if you have one and you pay it every month. But see, when I was younger and married the first time, I stayed in debt all the time. My wife would charge shit and I would charge shit because when you're young, you see stuff you want.
Right.
You buy it even though you don't have the freaking money.
Right.
Because you put it on a charge card. I've had to borrow money from the bank 2 or 3 times to pay the charge cards off, which means I had another payment. I had to pay the bank.
Right.
So that's the worst. I did that too. I had to pay that off for her one time. She had run it all up. So I'm worried about. He buys a lot of shit. Okay. Every time I turn around, he's buying something. He doesn't need that stuff. He give me a weed eater. He buy me, want me tools. I said, I don't need. I got all that shit, man. You don't need. He think I got it. I got it cheap. I got it cheap. But I mean, he's probably got 2 or 3 of everything. You don't need all that. He wants it. You gotta not want everything.
You told me a good. You told me a good lesson one time. We were at I think it was Hardee's or Arby's, something. And you said, you know, everybody at work. I think this. You're probably working at Stoneman at the time because I'm a kid. And you said, everybody. I go out and they get all this and that. I get a hot dog and I get water, and that and they got no money and I got all the money. And you know it does make sense. You know, you
Right.
put a lot of sacrifices in, and you were able to get it off at the end.
Yeah, well, see, now when I went into the apprenticeship, it cost me $550 for tools. All of us had a list of tools we had to buy. But they furnished my meters, they furnished my toolbox, they furnished my drills. We had to buy. I bought 5. They had a list of everything we had to have. I got every freaking tool you think of right there now.
Yeah.
You know, so they give me the toolbox when I left. They give me my drill when I left. They give me a lot of stuff I just took with me. So take your toolbox out. I left there all the tools I had. The meters were the biggest thing I got with it. I got a couple meters out there worth about $300 a piece.
Woo!
Simpson meters, big ones, you know. Amp meters. I got a couple digital amp meters you can clip around a wire. It's got a digital readout on it, you know. Anyway, what else?
All right. We'll cap it off with this, Papa. Do you have any grandparents? I don't think I've ever heard you talk about your grandparents. Do you remember them at all?
Oh yeah. I had a grandfather, which is my daddy's father. His name was Wilburn Watkins, same as my daddy, Wilburn Wheeler Watkins. They called him Luck Watkins. He owned his own barber shop in downtown Petersburg, and he was very popular. He lived on Washington Street. My grandmother was Gertrude. My grandfather, I didn't know him real well, but he had a pretty good business. I did not know my other grandfather because he was probably in an insane asylum. Well, just my grandmother. Okay, my grandmother was my dearest of all. She chewed snuff. She chewed tobacco and snuff at the same time. She lived up on High Street with her son, my mother's brother. She'd take me fishing all the time.
Wait, so this is your mother's mother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I slept over there a lot. Her brother and my mother lived. My brother took my mother in when my daddy was in the Navy. Me and Barbara and his mother. He took care of her. Out of 13 kids, he was the youngest. My mom was next to the youngest. And she was my favorite. She loved me. She'd take me shopping in Petersburg.
What was her name?
We go to the Rex Theater, which was a dumpy theater. Watch all the cowboy movies. And one time we were in the movie. It was real dark. See, we had the Bluebird, we had the Palace, we had the Century, we had the Rex, all on Sycamore Street. Bluebird and Century and the Palace were nicer. Rex was real dumpy, but they always had cowboy movies, you know, and what they call a serial. Every week they have a serial, like somebody flying a rocket ship or Davy Crockett or something like that. They have a serial. Every week you go back and it would be an extension of the serial. It was a little extra.
I
Cost
get
me 10 cents, cost her 20 cents. And she'd take me to the movies, take me shopping. One time I saw a shirt I liked, she bought it for me. She always buy me a big thing of popcorn, one of them things, round things of popcorn. Every time I go down there. I'd go to the movies. It'd be dark in there, and the floor would be like this.
Slanted? Yeah, yeah.
And I said, Grandma, I got to pee. She says, stand up and pee right there.
That's
I said, what, Grandma? She said, I'm not getting up. So I get up and pee behind the seat. There's not a lot of people in there,
right, right.
And the pee was just running on there. I peed, Well, she was old-fashioned. She ate squirrel. She ate rabbit. She ate chitlins. Okay.
So was she from Petersburg? Was she around there?
I don't know what. Yeah. We were raised up over in Petersburg.
Okay.
On Spring Street, I think it was.
Okay.
But see, her husband was real mean, and he would take an axe at his children, and he ended up being in the same asylum. I never knew him.
Oh.
But he was crazy. Okay.
So that's your mom's dad?
They had to move one time because he killed.
Oh.
He killed. And he figured they better get out of there, so they moved. I don't know where they moved to. I didn't even know him then. He was mean.
Whew. So that's your mother's
13
dad.
children. So he would take an axe and try to kill you. Okay. My mama told me all this. Okay.
Wow.
So my Uncle Abner boxed Golden Gloves. He was good. His brother Elvin boxed in the not the Navy, Marines, but Uncle Abner, he boxed Golden Gloves, and he boxed for the championship, and he lost. He had a repeat. He tried to get a fight with the guy, and the guy would never fight him again. He said, I'm never going to fight you again. Because he still lost, but he didn't want to fight him again. So I saw him beat up a lot of people. He was a wonderful guy. I loved how he beat my daddy one time.
Say what?
Beat the shit out of him, yeah. I saw him beat a couple of his brothers real bad one time.
Why is that?
Because they were doing something wrong.
Oh, okay.
Okay. He took to me. He took me fishing. Me and my cousin Johnny, his son, we go fishing all the time. He took us Chickahominy fishing all the time. We would have rabbit sometimes. He told us it was chicken. I always ate a rabbit leg. That was the only thing I would eat. They fixed their own biscuits all the time. They went to the supermarket and bought flour and stuff like that in sacks, big sacks. My grandmother would take the sacks and make clothes for the children because it was pretty cloth.
Oh, okay.
She had a single sewing machine.
That's crazy. Wait,
one like this. You do the feet like that.
Y'all had sack clothes?
No, she made dresses for Sonia and stuff like that while she was in high school.
That's crazy.
But the material is.
It was nice.
You take it after you get the flour out, stuff out of the sacks. It would be nice material.
Okay. That's crazy.
Well, see, back then, she had a little garden in the backyard. She'd kill chickens. That's the one I told you, hanging chickens on the clothesline. And cut the heads off. And I asked her one time, how come that chicken's running around with no head on? She said, and he fell over. I said, what's wrong with him? She said, he ran out of gas.
Yeah.
But we had a coal stove. We didn't have. She heated with coal. I had a scuttle bucket. What's called a scuttle bucket. I had to go out there and get coal every day. And in the big old shed in the back, we had trucks to bring us big hunks of coal.
That's not a thing anymore, is it?
Nobody burns coal anymore except the power companies.
Oh, okay.
And we had a stove in the dining room she cooked on, and they buy slab wood. They bring a truck of slab wood over there, which is real hunks of wood, slab real thin, and put it in the stove. And, that's the only heat we had.
So where did you grow up in one house, or what was your?
We always rented a house until Daddy finally built a house on Washington Street. And that's where I grew up in Washington Street. Then they built a big old store right beside this house and tore the hill down where we were at, and Daddy sold the house, and we rented from that hill from then on until he bought the house out in Petersburg.
Mm. Is that house?
We rented house to house to house. Old houses, but we were comfortable. My daddy worked at the dairy, Poole's Dairy, for 9 years. Then he went to work for Notice Bread, driving a bread truck. Then he went to work for Allied Chemical. That's where I went to work.
You said he built a house on Washington Street?
Yeah, right on the corner of Washington, across from the tobacco barns on Washington Street.
Huh, okay.
You know, then I went to, because my grandfather had a house right beside us.
Oh, okay.
He owned that property. My grandfather had a couple of houses he built, and our pastor at our church had one of them. My grandmother's sister had one of them. We had a big family back then. We had a lot of kids.
Mm.
We had, I know, one house, a couple of houses, we didn't have a bathtub. We had to wash all the time with a pan of water. You know,
Bet you
wash
smell
up.
good, man.
Well, we really didn't pay much attention. Back when you're young, you don't sweat like you do now. You know?
Yeah.
Hell, I can't even walk in the other room. She said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, BA."
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it, Papa. I appreciate it.
Now you take care of the baby and all, but listen, it doesn't cost you that much money for the child now. You wait till it gets to be a teenager, then you go put out money, okay?
Yeah, I believe.
And my kids cost me more now than they ever when they were growing up. That's what you know. You'll find out.
I believe. I believe.
They'll want a car. They'll want a horse. They'll want a motorcycle. They'll want this and they'll want that. And you love them and you give them what you can. You spoil them rotten, okay? I earned every fucking dime that I made. Nobody give me shit. And that's why I like to work, because I want my own money, okay?
I like that, Papa. I mean, I attribute a lot. You know, I know it might be minor times, but a lot of times riding in the truck with you, you sweated hard, man. The times I saw you,
Yeah,
you know.
I was in debt real bad at one time, you know.
Oh no, I'm saying when I was a kid and I got to work with you, I watched you work really hard, and I take that with me, man. I take that with me, Paul. You know, it's something.
Well, if you ever get a chance to learn more on some other things, it doesn't hurt, okay? It always helps. You better get on home.